Hello there, my name is Patrick, and you have just entered the Gameverse. In my pilot episode of This Week in the Verse, my new weekly gaming news show, I talked about No Man's Sky. What I found, however, is that a lot of channels have already posted up-to-date videos talking about all the information we know about No Man's Sky, with a deeper knowledge and more access to the game than a small budding journalist like myself. So I've decided that a video on what I personally would love to see make it into No Man's Sky would be a far more interesting discussion. While I do, I will try to be as informative as possible, so if you know very little about No Man's Sky, fear not, because you can still learn quite a bit from this short video. Just a quick note before we start, just because something isn't on this list doesn't actually mean it's not in the game. Right now we know very little about the game, though we are starting to learn more and more quite rapidly. These are the top 4 things I hope will be in No Man's Sky. Number 1 is joining and creating factions. So we know that this vast procedurally generated universe will be divided up into sectors. These sectors will be controlled by a procedurally generated faction. You can increase your reputation with a faction by helping them out in battles, and fighting against them obviously decreases your reputation with that faction. And a faction reputation system is a great addition to the game. But if it's as simple as don't shoot these guys, but instead shoot their enemies, and then you can sometimes gain rewards, that's a real missed opportunity. Now I know this game focuses on exploration, but this faction system could really be another way to play. Imagine if you could actually create your own faction, or at least join up with another faction. Maybe you could rank up, and eventually even run it after leading them to enough victories. Eventually you could start spreading out among the stars, taking more and more sectors under your control. Imagine even having your faction start to cross paths with a faction led by another player. This would be incredibly fun, and it doesn't even have to be that deep, as it's just one of the many ways to play. This would help players who aren't interested in hundreds of hours of exploring, which is the length developers Hello Games says it will take to get to the center of the universe, which is the only real objective in No Man's Sky. Number 2, building a home, base, or space station. I believe for a game as open and endless as No Man's Sky, it has to offer multiple ways to play. We have to remember, this game is massive in scale and for such a small studio, so it's understandable that not everything can be extremely deep. In fact, the depth that they have already announced is staggering. What I'm saying is, don't expect the ability to start up a planet's economy and then start building a huge city like you're playing The Sims, but it would be nice if we could claim a planet as our own and build a home or base on it. You know, something that we can put our loot, resources, weapons, and maybe even ships in. Also, the ability to build a giant space station is of course an amazing thought, and would be tons of fun. Especially if pirates and rival factions, or even factions we've had negative run-ins with, would attack us. Instead of wasting our time trying to find this mythical center of the universe like some crazy explorers out there, we could settle down and claim our own little slice of heaven. This would also lead to giving reasons to play a more passive style game, where instead of running a huge faction or trying to destroy everything in sight, we could merely be an adventurer, an explorer, wandering around our own little galaxy with a home to go back to, trying to keep a low profile and keep a good standing with all nearby factions. Now this one in particular I would be surprised to find in the launch title, because the developers are so focused on exploration. But sometimes it's better to let the player decide how they want to play. In fact, many developers tend to overlook. Number 3, space charts and maps. Sean Murray, the creative director for No Man's Sky, has said time and time again that there's no maps. And when it comes to the planets we're on, I agree, this is a very cool premise, because it makes no sense for us to have maps of these planets. If we get lost and can't find our ship again, that's our fault. What I don't agree with is that there's no way to ever get one. What if we meet a small alien civilization on the planet? Are you telling me they don't even have a map of their own lands? After years of exploring, what kind of explorer doesn't make maps, especially in the future? You're saying I've flown for hundreds of real-life hours to get to the center of the universe, and my character never once thought to chart my course? Our maps should be what we've discovered. Our characters are explorers, of course we're charting maps. Basically, as it is right now, from reports that I've heard, if you find a really awesome planet and then leave, well guess what? You will almost definitely never get back there, because you have no way of knowing where that planet even was or where you were when you found it. Number 4. Procedural Objectives and Quests. Now, procedural objectives or quests are a touchy subject, mainly because of how easily they could turn into MMO quests. You know, defeat 10 pirates, destroy 50 of this faction's ships, fetch this, do that, give me money, and so on and so on. But this team at Hello Games are obviously masters of procedural generation, at least going by this amazing game that they've been able to develop. I strongly believe they could create gripping, interesting missions, even if some of them feel a bit boring, because at the end of the day, sometimes it's nice to feel like you've accomplished something and be rewarded for that. Of course, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you would love to see in No Man's Sky down in the comments. When we receive more information on No Man's Sky, I will definitely be covering it, so check back again to see if we've learned anything new. And that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon. Goodbye.